This is Binod Shankar and you're listening to the Real Finance Mentor podcast from therealfinancementor.com. The Real Finance Mentor is your go-to resource for insight and inspiration on careers in finance, CFA and more. I would think, why this podcast? Well, my goal is to deliver insight and inspiration for your finance career by making it, one, relatable. This is not theoretical stuff. We zero in on the critical, practical issues. Number two, authentic. No bullshit, no sidestepping. The topics, guests, and questions are all from that perspective. And number three, take a chartered accountant and CFA charter holder, add 17 plus years as a corporate warrior, mix in 10 years of entrepreneurship, throw in a decade of full-time CFA training, add speaking, mentoring, cycling, and mountaineering, and that's me. Welcome to the Real Finance Mentor, or as I call it, RFM. Hi everyone, this is Binod Shankar here, the Real Finance Mentor. And today we have another very interesting episode of this podcast series that I initiated to deliver insight and inspiration for finance careers. Today I have two guests with me. And before I talk about them, a bit of background. So every year, the CFA Institute organizes investment research challenges around the world, where universities send teams to participate in a local country-specific competition to analyze a listed local company. And they write reports, they present before a panel of judges. It's a tough competition that brings together financial modeling, report writing skills, teamwork, etc., etc. And this year, Middlesex University from the UAE, Dubai campus, were the UAE national champions. In fact, last year as well, they were the national champions. So I think they're sort of setting a record here. And since I'm so interested in the youth and upskilling and employability, and of course the CFA program, I've invited two of the champs, Soumya and Steny, to share their views about a variety of topics on this podcast. So I look forward to hearing from them. So here we go. So welcome Soumya and Steny to the podcast.
Thank you, Binod.
So my first question here would be, who exactly are Steny Philip and Soumya Raghavan? I mean, how would your teachers and fellow students describe you?
So I'm a very motivated individual who owns my goals, be it career or anything else that interests me. In my free time, I'm an avid reader and an ardent fan of crime thrillers. I particularly love music and playing the piano. And sometimes I can crack a joke or two that can crack you up. And though I would love to add fitness to the list, right now I make up for it by watching workout videos from YouTube, which I guess is not bad for a beginner. And I like being busy, so you wouldn't usually find me sitting idle.
So anyone who knows me would say I resemble Monica from the show Friends. I'm passionate about my work and I give my best to everything that I take up. My friends have always described me as a helpful person. I strive for perfection and thus I can get really picky about things. And why Monica particularly, I absolutely love cleaning and organizing. Apart from that, I would describe myself as a singer and artist.
I like Steny's focus on fitness because that's one of my passions as well. And I suppose that's a great thing to do. And of course, Soumya, I think you're being very organized definitely helps in many things in career and life, right? Now, talking about this research challenge, right? So why did you guys volunteer for the tough CFA research challenge despite college exams and other demands on your time?
So it was definitely a challenge, not gonna lie. So ever since my first year of university, I have always heard my seniors talk about the prestigious CFA Research Challenge. And when there was a selection round in the third year, I knew I simply had to try. So, and I can be confident enough to say that though the past 6 months were a tumultuous ride, it was nothing short of a life-changing experience. The hands-on experience and the knowledge that we amassed during these 6 months were not the same as that we gained in our university life. It was much more than all that. It was definitely difficult to manage our time with the third year of university being another bumpy ride in itself. But I knew as challenging as this would get, it would also be rewarding, and it sure is rewarding.
I never participated in competitions throughout the first year of my university. And one of my lecturers actually noticed this and she told me that I should start participating because every competition is a learning experience of its own. And that stuck with me. And throughout second year, I participated in a lot of competitions. And most of those competitions actually required work for about 1 or 2 weeks. And if I could gain those many skills and learn so many new things in a span of 2 weeks, the CFA Research Challenge is for a span of 6 months. And I thought the knowledge I could gather would be incredible. Apart from that, around the end of my second year and beginning of third year, while I liked finance, I wanted to know more about it from a practical aspect. So I thought the CFA Research Challenge would be a great experience. And one of my seniors, Ms. Samina, she showed me her equity research report that she had done. And when she showed me that, I was in first year and I was thinking that it would be great to produce a report like that by me. So I really was motivated to participate in the CFA Research Challenge.
When listening to you guys, I'm struck by a mix of, quite frankly, envy and admiration because when I was your age, I never got the opportunity to hear of or participate in such interesting and valuable competitions, which I wish I had done because it's so character forming and upskills you and prepares you for the real world, right?
Yes.
Definitely.
Now, it can't have been easy working for the first time with four other team members on the team, right? On such a complex project and also under immense pressure regarding deadlines, etc. There must have been personality issues and technical, logistical, and personal challenges, right? So I've got two questions here for you. Tell me about the highs, but I also want to know the lows. And how did you manage, especially the lows?
Okay, so to address the first question about the highs and lows, I will address the lows first. So there were a fair share of issues that we had. We could not meet up in person or work together physically, which posed problems on its own. And though there were technical and logistical challenges, I would say that for me, personal challenges were at the forefront. So I'd lost a loved one during COVID. I had to travel back and forth from India. And I'd also tested COVID positive. So this all happened in a month's time, and it was extremely difficult. But on the bright side, we learned that teamwork can make anything possible. So we had each other's back throughout. When someone could not do something, another one would step in for them. And then we would manage it like that. And when we divided the work, we divided it in such a way that you take up what you are the most good at. So I'm pretty good at strategy, so I took up the role of a strategist. And Soumya, on the other hand, she was really good at numbers, so she took up valuation. Similarly, we all played on our strengths. And since each one took up what we were best in, and I think that helped a lot. Dealing with personal loss was super hard for me because I was very close to my granddad who passed away. And the initial plan was for me and Harshi, and another team member, to handle the report writing, while the presentation would be handled by Soumya. But this incident required me to take a step back from report writing and Soumya stepping in with Harshi. So there were a change of plans, and I took up charge of the presentation instead.
So I would like to address your question in two parts. So the personality issues, technical, logistical issues. In that part of it, the only low that I can think of is that we had like a miscommunication and a misunderstanding regarding the work segregation. So I particularly felt that it was because of the amount of communication we did back and forth on WhatsApp and email. And if it wasn't for an online mode of communication, I don't even think this problem would have happened in the first place. But we overcame this by discussing it over and we just resolved the issue. And COVID has been a tough year for everyone. For me, it was actually my mental health that took a toll because I anyway have performance anxiety because I like things to be perfect. But also I had COVID anxiety. So if say my dad or my sister was stepping out for a meeting, I would have palpitations at that time, wondering if they'd be safe or whether the people around them are safe. And the palpitations used to take time to subside. And the sad part is I can't even predict at what point in the day I would have this. I mean, someone could be going out to grocery and coming back with the bags, and I would be like, okay, is this safe? But I used to just rationalize it and tell myself that they have taken all the precautions they can. and there are just some things that I cannot control. I just used to pray that they are safe, and they are fine. And so at that point, my family really supported me whenever I was feeling low or if I had palpitations or something. And my sister particularly has been my backbone throughout this, because she listens to a lot of podcasts and research. So she keeps herself up to date about, the COVID research that comes. And she would send it across to me, and she would tell me to read it or listen to it so that I would feel better based on the most latest research. So yeah, that was really tough, managing my mental health and CFA research challenge and university at the same time. But I wouldn't have it any other way, looking back at it, because I think it just made me a stronger person. And as for the high notes, I took the task of valuation. So when we got the number for the DDM and DCF valuation, and that aligned with the stories and the industry ratios, we were all really excited on WhatsApp, and we were just going back and forth texting. And the second high note I would say is when Miss Rashita called us up and told us that we were the local winners. So we were really happy about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting excited about the cash flow statement tallying and the DCF, DDM valuation aligned with the strategy reminds me, as a qualified accountant, of the excitement I go through when a balance sheet tallies, right? and it all makes sense. But on the serious side, Soumya, really appreciate you sharing a very personal issue, which is the mental health problems that you went through over the last 12 months and how you coped with it. Because I think it's something that a lot of people, both young and old, have experienced, but people rarely talk about it because it's still a very taboo subject in many societies. And I think what helped you was your support system of friends and family.
Definitely.
And I think you need to have that support system so that you can pull yourself out and get back to normal life. So that's actually quite an inspirational narrative from you. And I hope a lot of youngsters take heart from that and believe that there's always an exit, and it doesn't have to be doom and gloom, right? Talking about support now, in the research challenge, I know because I was the project manager for the research challenge in the UAE, you had support from your faculty, right? Ms. Rashita Bhutia, and from the industry mentor, Ankur Agarwal, CFA. Now, I have two questions for you guys on that, right? On both attitude and aptitude side, what are the two things that really struck you when you were interacting with these experienced professionals? That's my first question.
Okay, so firstly, they were extremely good at what they did. Like they carried themselves in such a way that demonstrated their proficiency and expertise. Secondly, and my most favorite point is that they did not give us ready made answers for anything. But what they did do was help us think it out ourselves and whatever the problem may be. And I really admire that quality, like where you don't give the answer straight away, but you spark the curiosity and inquisitiveness in your mentees and you point us in the right way to go. So I think that's a really great thing. And lastly, their dedication towards students. And I have to name Ms. Rashita over here, who is our greatest motivation. She pushed us to work harder and she motivated us when we were completely exhausted. And the thing about Ms. Rashida is that she never missed an opportunity to remind us that every single thing that we do, or every single thing that sometimes we were like so drained, so not motivated, and she would remind us that every single second is worth the pain, and that really pushed us to go forward.
So for Ms. Rashita, she's extremely passionate about the subject, and that is reflected in the amount of time and the amount of effort that she has put in training us throughout the last 6 months. I mean, she prepared 70 questions on an Excel sheet and she sent it to us for a 10-minute question and answer. And she called each of our parents on 10:30 on 27th, the day the results came, and she said that you all should be really proud of your children because they have stuck through such a difficult competition and they have emerged as the winners. And we're truly blessed to have a mentor like her. And the second thing, she expects a certain level of work from us, and rightly so, because she has an expertise in the subject. And if we show the effort in wanting to scale to that level, she is there to provide us with all the support that we need. And even when we didn't actually qualify to the next round, I remember the only thing she said was, "You, all of you gave in your best, and you worked hard throughout the last 6 months. So if anything, you should be really happy and proud of what you've accomplished. And it is still time to celebrate." And as for Mr. Ankur, like Ms. Rashida provided a lot of technical knowledge, but Mr. Ankur gave a lot of industry insights and more of the practical aspects. And from a judge point of view, what are the things that would actually add value to our report? He constantly told us of that. So for instance, Tabreed were to start their operations in India in 2021. And we calculated the tax amount on that, and it was really insignificant. So we were wondering if we should even show it. And when we asked him, he said, "No, you should, because it shows that you've paid attention to even the tiniest detail." And things like that we found really valuable from Mr. Ankur. And something that is common between the two of them is they always are open and willing to answer our questions, again, if we approach them. So they respond to curiosity, and they're extremely patient while explaining it to you. So even if we ask them a second time that we didn't quite understand what you're trying to tell us, they would be extremely patient and explain it all over again. So it was really nice to have the support of two mentors.
Yes, interesting. I mean, I know you've talked about both your mentors, but conceptually, what are your thoughts on the value of mentors, especially for fresh young graduates who are about to enter the workplace?
Yeah, so I think if you had probably asked me this question before the CFA Research Challenge, I wouldn't have had much to say. But after being a part of this competition, I think while a good mentor imparts his or her knowledge to you, they also prompt you to think and look for answers on your own. Sometimes you'll be drained and exhausted, and I know this because I've been there. So they will encourage you when you need it the most. And I think more importantly, for youngsters like us who are just starting our career, mentorship is an invaluable resource. Like there are a lot of things we have no clue about, like we absolutely have no clue about. And if there is someone who's willing to offer us advices without sugarcoating it, I think that is simply great, and we're ever ready to take it.
Mm.
After having mentors, I certainly do think it's important for every student to have mentors in university, especially because we're just confused. And the mentors, they give you the necessary guidance about all the confusion that you have. And the best part I felt was they give you the space to bounce off and shape your own ideas. And they also, like while they input, they give their own inputs to your thought process without actually dictating what your opinion should be. So like if I had to give you an example, so for financial modeling, there were a lot of times when I was doubtful if the estimate that I'm doing or the assumption that I'm making is correct. But Ms. Rashida used to always say that, okay, I can tell you broadly that your revenue cannot probably be about 10%, but you need to trust yourself that the assumptions that you're making are right. And additionally, they stimulate and they build the technical skills and the 4Cs that you had mentioned in one of your LinkedIn posts: curiosity, communication, collaboration, and critical thinking. And I would like to add a fifth C, confidence, because I definitely see an improvement in all of the above in myself.
And they're probably going to steal that. I'm going to upgrade my 4C to 5C now. I'll add the confidence next time I say or post anything on social media, right? Now let's talk about higher education in the UAE, right? College education in the UAE, as you know, is often regarded as subpar compared to, say, UK, US, Canada, Australia, and even compared to some good colleges in India. So why did you stay back and study in the UAE when you probably had other options?
It definitely is regarded as subpar, but it necessarily is not subpar. Actually, my initial plan after my grade 12 was to go to a good college in India because college education in UAE, as we all know, is pretty expensive. And I wasn't really sure whether I should do it here. But on doing a little research myself, I got to know about Middlesex University. So then they had really attractive scholarships, and I heard that the faculty over there is like really good. And to top it all, they also had ACC exemptions. Out of the total 13, they offered a 9 paper exemption. So I think Middlesex really provided value for money, and it definitely was not subpar when compared to other colleges abroad or even in India.
Respectfully, I do. that quality education is subpar in the UAE, at least for undergraduate education. A lot of international universities are established in this country, and the international curriculum is also followed very rigorously, such as my university, Middlesex. And I believe that no matter what university you study in, it is what you make of that experience that shapes your knowledge. And particularly for a field like accounting and finance, when I did my research, I found that like in comparison to all the other countries as well, UAE provided a well-rounding learning experience, and it was at par with what internationally it's offered. So if I got quality education, I didn't compromise on anything, and I was at the comfort of my house. I chose to be here. And with the pandemic, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise for me.
Right. So we talked about college education being expensive in the UAE, right? Now that you're almost done with college, reflecting back and looking at the demands of the job market, right, in the UAE and abroad, do you think the time and money you spent here were well spent or not? I mean, give me 3 reasons why.
Okay, so I initially, as I mentioned, did think it was a bit too expensive. Then again, when I weighed the pros and cons, I think that the money, and in particular the time spent, was very well spent. First of all, studying in an accredited and recognized university helped me gain a number of scholarships, in particular the CMA program scholarship. And there is also a yearly scholarship offered by Middlesex, which slashed down my fees by almost half. And I found it like simply great. And second thing I would like to say is exposure. So not only did I gain a quality UK degree, I also gained exposure to several different things that helped me become employable. So I had like firms messaging me in LinkedIn, even when I was in my first year, that like they have seen my profile and they would like me to intern with them. So I think that being a first year and then you getting like internship offers is like simply great. And I don't think you would probably get it anywhere else in the world. Because at the same time, like I had my friends from India. So then they had come and then they were actually struggling to find an internship in Dubai. So I think studying in a recognized university will help you gain that, exposure. And thirdly, extracurriculars. While I admit that classroom learning is super essential for a student, I think what really gives us a taste of the outside world, of the real corporate world, is competitions. And we had the amazing opportunity to take part in a number of competitions like the CFA Research Challenge. And I think every penny spent was definitely worth it.
Hmm.
So firstly, I got a merit scholarship, like Steny had mentioned, from the university. And I got 2 other scholarships to pursue professional qualifications. So definitely it was money well spent because I got a great quality education and I'm able to pursue professional qualifications. And the number of opportunities that our university provides us with is quite a lot, because we had a lot of competitions, both internal and outside university competitions. And they provided us with scholarships, and the faculty is always there to train you for every opportunity that comes your way. So that rigorous training also helped me upskill myself. So I definitely think that makes me employable to meet the demands of the job market. And thirdly, I think the exposure available in a country like UAE is global, because there are both homegrown and international companies, and they're always looking for talented people. So this, combined with the skills that we've attained over the last 3 years in university, I truly believe it was time and money well spent.
Right. So these days in the media, you've probably heard a lot about, these young Goldman Sachs bankers who made this big presentation protesting tough working conditions and talking about, long days and nights and weekends and tough working conditions with 105 hours a week and things like that, right? So, I mean, you are graduates going to the workplace. So I'm very curious, what are your thoughts when you read such news items? Are you confident, scared, anxious, curious? Tell me more.
So I think it is my personal opinion that working hours like this should not actually be glorified, nor should employers take advantage of their employees. But however, I don't refute the fact or discourage people, because it is really your personal choice in the end. And if you don't mind toiling a number of hours, then so be it. And Goldman Sachs really has a reputation and everyone really wants to work in there. So I don't really blame the people who choose to work over there. But then again, like there's plenty of people waiting in line to get that one single job. And but there is a need that we remind ourselves, our government, our and our employers, like work is not the only thing in your life. You have to earn your livelihood. It is an essential thing as a human being, but you need to also make sure that you hit the right balance between work and life, which definitely is not easy, but it is an absolute necessity given the time that we're living in and the growing importance of mental health.
Hmm.
So I'm reminded of the quote, if you do what you will love, you will never work a day in your life. And I think that quote is true, but not if your working hour is 9 a.m. to 3 a.m., because then you're just going to burn out and you might just start disliking work. And while the choice to work in companies like Goldman Sachs is on the employee and also the dream for a lot of people, I think there is a power disparity in the equation between an employer and an employee. Okay, so what I mean by this is that if the employee decides that, okay, I will work only a certain hours and beyond that, I will not put in work, the employer can just decide to fire them. And there's, like Steny said, there's someone waiting in line to take over your place. And because of that replaceability, I think it is a tough choice for many. And there could be a lot of people out there for who this work is not just the dream, but also they do it for the high reward, because they could be having student loans or they could be the sole earning member in their family and things like that. And since the jobs out there are few, they don't have a choice. So I do believe that employers hold a higher power there. And there is a need for better working conditions because of that. With work from home expected to continue in the near future, there definitely needs to be a clear defined work time.
True. Let's continue talking about careers because it's an area of special interest for me, right? Now, success in careers is generally much tougher for women than men because number one, in many cultures, especially in Middle East and Asia, right, there's so much social pressure. Girls are expected to marry early, have kids, raise those kids, look after the home, including in-laws, at the same time be super conservative, etc., right? And that can negatively affect career progression. And number two, a male-dominated workplace, which is very common in finance, right? So you probably felt number one, right? The first part of what I said, the cultural part and the family pressure part, but most likely not number two yet because you have yet to enter a workplace. And you probably thought about these issues, right? Gender disparity, gender discrimination, especially in finance, which is probably your chosen field. How do you view this and how do you plan to navigate through this?
Okay, so talking about the first one, lucky for me, my parents are always super supportive and has always been my greatest encouragement. And my dad, like he's like a huge inspiration to me, and he's always the first person I turn to when I make decisions regarding my education and career. So, and I have two sisters, like we don't have any boys in the house. So, my dad has never really treated us any less than he would treat any other boy. Like we were brought up independent, and like we knew all the aspects of, like running a house, like be it finance or finances or any other like even household aspects. And my dad is someone who's, like he always helps my mom in cooking and everything is like, there's an equal share of work. So I think that has really influenced my thinking about, equality and, how everyone should be treated. So, and I think that is a huge blessing. And talking of the second one, a male-dominated workplace, I still haven't felt the brunt of it until now.
Sure.
But when I look around, I see things changing. I see so many women holding top positions in top firms. And I think that's a really good beginning. And I feel privileged to be part of such a time where women are, empowered. I'm sure like I will find a way through. And what really matters is what we think of ourselves. And there shouldn't be a point of time where we think of ourselves, oh, I'm a woman, I can't really reach there. But then like look around, look for inspiration. There's so many women who have made it to the top, and if they can, so can I. And you eventually become what you settle for. One thing I've kept on holding on, like even when I've made a lot of decisions, is what I'm settling for. There is a lot of options. Like I can settle for less. I can just settle for like a job which is not very recognized. But I've made it a point in my life that I settle for the best. I know the best will find. That might not be, I may not see it now, but I know that it will come to me and I'll eventually find it.
Same as Tenny, I have never faced any social pressure as a woman in my house, and I've always grown around strong, independent women in my family who have always taken their decision, be it choosing to raise a family or deciding their own career trajectory. And I have an elder sister at home. Again, like Stenny's family, I don't have any brothers. So my sister is technically of the marriageable age according to society, but I don't see my parents telling her anything, and she's deciding her own, she's making her own choices. And that's also because the men in my family, right from my grandfather, they've always been supportive and they've always believed in the importance of empowering women. And I'm reminded of Divya Surya Devara, the then CFO of General Motors. Now she's the CFO of Stripe. And when I was reading her story, I remember roughly around 6 years back, I was in school and I found it really inspirational because she had a difficult background, both financially and personally, but she worked hard and she rose to become the CFO, the first woman CFO of a major US automaker. But she also has a family right now at the same time. So like Steny said, there is no reason for us to settle for less. And to answer your second question about a male-dominated workplace, recently in one of your LinkedIn posts, you had mentioned that there were, I think, 8 women in finance from the Barron's list who were women of color. And I don't know why, but for some reason, I saw number 2 was Ms. Anu Iyengar. And I just started reading up about her career and her journey. And seeing that she rose to the top at a time when the conversation about equality was so bleak, and she showed strength and she did not give up when her interviewer said that she was of the wrong gender, of the wrong color, and in the wrong country. I mean, that really inspired me, because if she could do it, I think I can, because even though I've not felt the male-dominated workplace yet, there have been improvements over the years in terms of, breaking the glass ceiling. And I will be entering the workplace at a time when the conversation is at least prevalent. And hopefully by the time I'm old, equality is completely there in every workplace. And my plan to navigate through this is just to work hard, to be the best at what I am doing, and I'll let my work speak for itself.
I mean, very interesting, right? It's quite important to have the right network or connections. I mean, I think both of you referred to the fact that you had strong women and supportive men in your family, right? And that itself is a big thing, because you grow up seeing successful, strong women and who are fulfilling their potential, right? And very interesting for me is also, you mentioned 2 names, right, Soumya, Divya Surya Devara and Anu Iyengar. And I think that's also very important to have strong role models in the sector that you are looking at, because then suddenly you can identify with these people, and you believe, if these people with this background similar to mine can do it, then probably I can do it as well. I think we are seeing an increase in such role models in finance, of women entering finance, and hopefully it picks up and it really encourages more young women to enter finance. Because I think the lack of role models is one significant hurdle, especially when you don't have women to mentor women at the workplace. That can be a hurdle and a hope if you do have senior women who are able and willing to mentor juniors, right? Now, let's talk about professional networking, right? You're both active on LinkedIn, which is fantastic, because have been also very active on that platform. It is great because it is the professional networking platform. And I keep saying that to everyone, right? Every youngster. Now, of course, I want to discover what you have found out about this platform. So tell me 3 things, like 2 good and say 1 bad, that you've found out about LinkedIn.
Okay, so to start off, I think LinkedIn is a great platform which has made networking a lot easier. So, firstly, if you're looking to motivate yourself, LinkedIn is the go to platform. You see a lot of people achieving their dreams, irrespective of their age, gender, or culture. And naturally, it pushes you to think that if they can do it, so can I. And that's a great motivation. Sometimes you're like, exhausted, and you won't know, like, if you have that thing in you, like if you have what it takes to be, to reach a position where you'll be recognized, or you can achieve that qualification you've always wanted, to get that job that you've always wanted. But then you see posts of people who have actually gone through these stuff, and then how they've overcome it, and then we think that if they can do it, then definitely we can do it. There is a way out if we want. And another thing is like posts like yours, which tell me what I need to hear rather than what I would want to hear. It's sometimes it's just like so on the face, but it's really true, and I know that. And another, speaking of that, I see in LinkedIn that like a lot of people are just superficial. There is a lot of advices which doesn't make any sense, and they just put up there just for the sake of putting out content. And one more bad thing I would like to mention about LinkedIn is that there's a lot of people who come just there to make friends. So then there's a lot of I don't know if I should say this, but there's a lot of men who message like, "Hi, can we be friends? Where are you from? Where do you live?" Like all those things. So I think that quite annoying. And then to think that LinkedIn is a professional networking site, and then people coming there to make friends, I don't think that's really acceptable.
I think some people confuse Facebook with LinkedIn, and maybe they should stick to Facebook.
So two good things. The first one being, I think it's like a one-stop shop for human interaction and development. Again, not on a social, but on an intellectual level. But clearly, like Sunny said, some people are misusing it. So in terms of be it connecting with people of common subject interest, or to find mentors, or prospective employment opportunities, and definitely to learn, it has it all, and it helps you with all of it. And personally, for me, one thing that I found really interesting about LinkedIn was, if I generally read a piece of information, I form an opinion about it. But having a platform like LinkedIn, it enabled me to get a lot of different perspectives on the same matter, which is something you don't get on a normal news app. So if I were to give an example, I remember there was this news article which said Zomato India gives paid leave for 10 days to women who are on their periods or something. And I clicked on the comment section, and it was so interesting to read, because it's like a debate going on there in the comment section about whether it should be 10 days, whether it should be 7 days, whether it should even be there, So it was really interesting like that for many pieces of information to read the comments. And the bad thing that I have experienced is it's really difficult to distinguish between what is real and what is fake. So I remember this one week, I came across like a lot of posts where, one person posts saying that my prospective employee asked me for 28,000 as the salary, but, I chose to give 35,000. And I kept seeing this, and I was like, everyone somehow has the same figure and the same amount. And, so, I mean, that's obvious. It was obvious it was fake, but I think there are a lot of information out there that might be a little more harder to distinguish. And I also found profiles to be fake. So once I remember there was this connection request that I got, and I did not know the company, so I just did a quick Google search, and I didn't find anything. So I found a Facebook page. So I clicked on that page, and I found some really disturbing content on it, and it made it a lot harder to trust genuine people and to connect with them, because I'm skeptical of hitting that connect button these days, because I tend to wonder who is on the other side of the conversation, if it's genuine, if their identity is who they actually are, because I feel like I'm revealing my identity to someone, but what if I'm not receiving it from the other end? So that's definitely one of the bad things that I've seen with LinkedIn.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, talking about opinions and advice. So, I mean, you guys are young and you've gone through school and college and competitions, right? And things like that. So you must have been on the receiving side of opinions, advice, instructions, suggestions, right? From parents, family members, teachers, mentors, right? So, and of course, you are still trying to form your own opinions. But I'm curious, give me some examples, some great advice, and of course, some bullshit advice that you've got in the past about education, career, and life.
Okay, so I've got a lot of advices in my life. So to start with a great one first, if I could think of one great advice, it would be it's a little complicated. So don't be afraid of being afraid. So I chanced upon this in my first year of university. This is one advice that have always helped me to seize every opportunity that came my way. So back in school, I was that one kid who was always afraid to try because I was afraid I would fail. I had this fear of failure, like, oh God, what if I go for it? And if I fail, what will others think of me? I always used to have that constant fear. But when I came to university, I started to push myself. Like I realized that if I am the one standing between my success and me, I think my greatest enemy was myself. I think fear was the biggest enemy. So I pushed myself to, like just get like if I don't try, I don't even stand a chance of winning. So I decided, like I'm gonna seize every opportunity that comes my way, be it like whether I win or not. I decided to make it a learning experience. If I fail one time, so what? I can win the next time. And talking about a bullshit advice, it would definitely be what every other person has told me. Don't bite off more than you can chew. There's too much on your plate. Well, there might be too much on my plate, but if that's what you want, so be it. I think 20s is that time of your life where you either make it or break it. You can either waste it all away or you can like invest it, like study a valuable course or like do more productive things.
Hmm.
So if I want to do it. So who's to decide what I want in my life? I decided I wanted to be productive, so it should be productive.
So continuing with the bullshit advice, I wouldn't call it so much as advice because I've heard it, but no one has ever told me this. But I believe in school, there's a lot of over focus on marks. And sure, while that can be important to get to a certain stage in your life, I think the focus should also be on continuous learning because in the long run, that's the only thing that's going to help you thrive in your career. So maybe till school, in college, your parents or your teachers, or they could be telling you, okay, get marks, do this, study this. But beyond that, if you are not going to have it, like a self motivation that, okay, I should learn and I should continuously update myself with what is happening. I mean, no one can really help you in the later parts of your life. So I also think that it's important to have it from a young age. And as a side note, something that my parents have always told me is the drive to even score marks and to learn, it should always be internal. So this was something that was always taught to me from a young age. And continuing with good advice always from my parents and my sister as well. So you will always have work, and it's only going to get tougher as you grow older, but you have to find time for things that are really important to you. So they always tell this to me with regards to my physical exercise and meditating. I haven't really been focusing a lot on it in the last year because of work, but they would always tell me that you should at least take out half an hour or 45 minutes in a day to focus on those things as well. And the second good advice that I always carry with me is your success does not matter if you have compromised on your values or your ethics to achieve it. And they always emphasize on honesty, that it should be honesty even when no one is watching you. So it's not just when you're being monitored, but whether you're honest to yourself. And the second thing would be to be helpful with, help everyone out there. So, because it's only going to make you a better person and you're going to end up learning in that process. You'll always learn something when you help others. So, yeah, these are the advice that I've got till date.
I like that part about three things that you said, Soumya, which I really connect with. One is don't focus too much on scores and marks, and also try and achieve a work-life balance, physical exercise, meditation, etc. And very, very importantly, especially in finance, right? Don't compromise on your values or ethics. Especially, yeah, that's very important. Now, you guys are about to approach a very important part of your life, right? Or phase of your life, which is you're about to graduate and you're looking forward, hopefully, to many things in life. So I've got two related questions here, right? And first is, what's your take on your chosen careers in terms of trends, prospects, opportunities, and challenges?
Okay. So I aspire for a career in finance. though I have not particularly decided on the specifics. And I know for a fact that finance is a fiercely competitive field, with the pandemic only making it more competitive. The businesses are growing, and since finance is fundamental to every business, regardless of the sector, the future of finance definitely does not look dull. But at the same time, I see that the opportunities are less and the competition is just great. So I think finance is a very nice field for to grow in, to work in, to learn about new things, and I think, but there are a lot of challenges that come with it because the people are just competitive right now, and everyone has like at least one or two qualifications. So I think we really need to stand out.
The one thing I feel that poses is both an opportunity and a challenge at the same time, in again my chosen career, finance, is the increased demand for certain skills like financial modeling, and maybe if they're at a more senior position, things like data analytics and technology. To supplement along with your professional technical knowledge. So you not only need a professional qualification and your undergraduate, but you also need these skills. And why I said it's an opportunity, because you get to upskill yourself in the process, but it's a challenge because it's a completely new subject that you have to learn. And sometimes I've seen that a lot of people who have done IT, they end up easing into finance because they do financial like a financial professional qualification, and then they have the IT skills, and then they're definitely more employable. So like Steny said, the competition is also a lot. And yeah, that's what I believe is the future. But then again, we don't know, 10 years from now things could change, a new technology could come, or there could be a demand for a new skill.
Right. I mean, you talked about opportunities and challenges, right? So given that you seem to have decided to go for a career in finance, what's your personal plan to deal with this or take advantage of these opportunities and challenges?
The only way, as obvious as it is to compete. So we have to like stand out from the crowd. Like Soumya said, we have to keep on upskilling ourselves, learn new skills. The demands of the market might change. Then so we have to like continuously focus on what are the current demands, and then upskill yourself accordingly. My personal plan to deal with this is to have an understanding of the subject rather than just mug it all up while I'm in this learning stage. And I think it should be all about learning because the more you learn, the more knowledgeable you are, and you are better placed to apply it in your workplace. And another thing is to set goals for yourself, hold yourself accountable. For me, what I've done is like I've set like short-term targets and long-term targets for myself. I know what I want to be in the future, like 10 years down the lane or 5 years down the lane. I know what I want to be. And I need to work for it. I can't just make a plan and sit idle. So what I have to do is I have to work for it, find out what is the right certification that goes along with which will complement what I want to be. And we should not tell anyone, never let anyone tell you what you want to aim for. Like, so you own your goal and then you work for it. And I think that's the mantra right now.
So as a short-term goal, so for the professional qualification side of it, I'm planning to give my CFA level 1. And from the skills side of it, I learned financial modeling in the CFA research challenge, but I definitely want to perfect it because I think there's a lot of scope for me to become better. So I received a scholarship for the Financial Modeling Institute AFM exam. So I'm planning to give that to perfect my financial modeling skills. And definitely in the long term, I mean, based on my research at least, I would like to learn Python and then learn R because I saw that Python is easier to begin with for someone who has no coding experience. And then transitioning to R is then easier. And R is more in demand for finance, like for data analytics and finance. But then again, like I said, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years from now, the demands of the market could just completely change and I'll have to, replan and go according to that. But as of now, this is my plan.
Well, all good things come to an end, right? So I think it's time to wrap up this very fascinating interview. I always find fascinating to dig into the minds of youngsters and hear about their hopes, fears, ambitions, aspirations, etc. And this podcast has given me a fascinating insight into what you guys think. I think, I mean, you guys are obviously bright and ambitious and quite diligent. and remarkably quite street smart and aware of what's happening around you, right? And the demands and opportunities and challenges. And hence, I think this particular episode would be of immense value to anyone right now in college or even fresh graduates, not just looking for a career in finance, but pretty much a career in any of their chosen fields. Because there's so much valuable information about education and learning and mental toughness, about attitude, about upskilling that can help them in their careers. So thank you so much, Soumya and Steny, for spending the time and sharing your thoughts. And I am sure you're at the threshold of I hope you're at the threshold of a very interesting and fulfilling career. I'll watch your careers with considerable interest. So thank you a lot.
Thank you for having us over, Vinod.
Thank you. Thank you for having us over. This has been a great self-reflection process for even us.
Yes, absolutely.
Podcast is brought to you by The Real Finance Mentor. Thank you so much for listening. And I really hope you found it insightful and inspirational. If you did enjoy this episode, please drop us a review and spread the word. And be sure to check out more exclusive content on therealfinancementor.com and my LinkedIn profile, which is Binod Shankar CFA. Let's keep in touch. Just add your name to the mailing list on therealfinancementor.com and we'll tell you about new episodes, plus book reviews, upcoming events, and blogs. Till the next time, onwards and upwards.